Which Star Trek captains met each other? Many of the great captains in Star Trek have crossed through space and time, whether intentional or accidental, and met each other. Feature films, series premieres, and important franchise anniversaries are peppered with connections between different Star Trek captains, with time travel sometimes coming into play for captains from different parts of the Star Trek timeline. Star Trek captains in the same era, like the 24th century setting of Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and Star Trek Voyager, can meet fairly easily, but it's still exciting to see captains from different shows interact. With Star Trek's longevity, we're not counting every single Star Trek character to hold the rank of captain. It's a given that Star Trek characters who have become captains after being series regulars, like Captain William Riker, Jonathan Frakes, have met their own commanding officers. Star Trek captains who didn't lead a show also don't make the cut. Instead, we're looking at the heavy hitters, Star Trek captains, who were the primary commanding officers of their shows, whether that was for a single season or an entire series. With that said, let's take a chronological look at these legendary meetings. Captain James T. Kirk met Captain Christopher Pike. Viewed in production order, Captain James T. Kirk, William Shatner, and Fleet Captain Christopher Pike, Sean Kenny, are first seen on screen together in Star Trek, the original series Season 1, Episodes 15 and 16, The Menagerie, after Pike's disfiguring accident. Kirk explains that he'd met Pike years earlier, when Pike was named Fleet Captain. Chronologically, Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 6, Lost in Translation, shows the first in-person meeting between a younger Lieutenant James Kirk, Paul Wesley, and Captain Pike, Anson Mount, when Pike is temporarily assigned command of Kirk's USS Farragut and Bivali Station's refinery. Star Trek Strange New Worlds challenges the implication from Star Trek, the original series, that Kirk doesn't know Pike very well by giving the two Enterprise captains more shared history while maintaining Kirk's original statement as a technical truth. Because Strange New Worlds treats canon as malleable instead of written in stone, the prequel set on Pike's Enterprise has the freedom to tell better contemporary Star Trek stories and feature a lot more of Paul Wesley's James Kirk. Captain Pike met Captain Burnham, and Captain Saru. Captain Christopher Pike, Anson Mount, takes his turn in the center seat as the USS Discovery's captain in Star Trek Discovery Season 2, when future USS Discovery captains Michael Burnham, Sonequa Martin Green, and Saru Doug Jones serve under Pike with the rank of commander. After Pike's departure to lead Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Commander Saru becomes de facto captain of the USS Discovery, a position that Saru holds through Star Trek Discovery Season 3. Captain Michael Burnham assumes command of the USS Discovery after Captain Saru in Star Trek Discovery's final 2 seasons. Pike's impact on both Burnham and Saru is significant because Captain Pike's leadership style is such a strong departure from Discovery's previous captain, Gabriel Lorca, Jason Isaacs. Star Trek Discovery's Captain Lorca weighs down the USS Discovery's crew with selfish distrust, whereas Pike lifts their spirits with trust and encouragement. After Pike, Saru and Burnham are able to build stronger rapports with their own crews, and Star Trek Discovery is all the better for it. In the vast universe of Star Trek, captains are iconic figures, each embodying unique values, leadership styles, and philosophies that shape the way they navigate the challenges of space exploration. Over the decades, fans have been treated to a plethora of memorable captains, but the most exciting moments often come when these legendary figures meet each other, transcending their own series. Crossovers between captains have not only deepened the Star Trek lore, but also offered thrilling encounters that test the dynamics between leaders. Here's a closer look at some of the key moments when Star Trek captains met one another. 1. Captain Kirk and Captain Picard. Perhaps the most famous crossover in the Star Trek franchise is the meeting of Captain James T. Kirk, played by William Shatner, and Captain Jean-Luc Picard, played by Patrick Stewart, in the 1994 film Star Trek Generations. This film marked the symbolic passing of the torch from the original series to the Next Generation (TNG) era. In the film, Kirk, long thought dead after disappearing into the Nexus, a temporal anomaly, is found by Picard, who seeks his help in stopping the villainous Dr. Saran. The interaction between the two captains highlights the contrast in their leadership styles. Kirk is impulsive, instinctual, and often driven by passion. Picard, on the other hand, is more cerebral, thoughtful, and diplomatic. The film gives fans a rare opportunity to see these two iconic captains working together, even if briefly, to save the galaxy. Although some fans were left wanting more from this historic meeting, it remains one of the most memorable moments in Star Trek history. 2. Captain Sisko and Captain Picard. Another significant captain meeting occurred in the pilot episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, titled Emissary. This meeting, however, was far more tense and complex than Kirk and Picard's collaboration. Benjamin Sisko, played by Avery Brooks, who would go on to command Deep Space Nine, has a fraught history with Picard. Sisko's wife had been killed during the Battle of Wolf 359, a devastating encounter between the Federation and the Borg. During this battle, Picard had been assimilated by the Borg and was forced to lead the attack on the Federation as Locutus of Borg. When Sisko meets Picard in Emissary, the tension is palpable. Sisko blames Picard for the death of his wife, though Picard himself had no control over his actions while under Borg influence. The interaction between these two captains is marked by Sisko's barely contained resentment and Picard's professional yet strained demeanor. Over time, Sisko evolves as a leader and sheds some of this bitterness, but their initial meeting sets the tone for the more personal and emotional stakes that Deep Space Nine would often explore. 3. Captain Janeway and Captain Picard. While Captain Catherine Janeway, played by Kate Mulgrew of Star Trek, Voyager did not have a direct, on-screen crossover with Picard during the main run of Voyager, the two captains did share an important moment in the film Star Trek Nemesis. In this 2002 film, Janeway, now an admiral, briefly appears in a scene where she gives Picard orders. Though the encounter is brief, it signifies Janeway's successful return from the Delta Quadrant and her rise through the ranks of Starfleet. The interaction between Janeway and Picard is professional and direct, showing the mutual respect between these two experienced captains. While Star Trek Nemesis did not delve deeply into their relationship, the mere acknowledgement of Janeway's presence in the post-Voyager universe was a nod to her status as one of the franchise's iconic captains. 4. Captain Archer and Captain Kirk. Theoretical. One of the more speculative meetings between Star Trek captains involves Captain Jonathan Archer, played by Scott Bakula, of Star Trek Enterprise, and Captain Kirk. Though these two captains never met on screen, their connection is often discussed in the context of Starfleet history. Archer, as the captain of the Enterprise X-1, laid the groundwork for what would become the Federation, making him a historical figure by the time of Kirk's command of the Enterprise nearly a century later. There are numerous references to Archer in Star Trek Discovery and the Kelvin timeline films, suggesting that Kirk and others were well aware of Archer's legacy. While fans have long speculated about what a meeting between these two trailblazing captains might have been like, it remains an intriguing what-if scenario within the franchise. 5. Captain Pike and Captain Kirk. Another pivotal captain meeting occurs in the rebooted Kelvin timeline, where Captain Christopher Pike, played by Bruce Greenwood, serves as a mentor to a young James T. Kirk, played by Chris Pine. In Star Trek 2009 and Star Trek Into Darkness 2013, Pike plays a significant role in shaping Kirk's journey to becoming the captain of the Enterprise. Pike's leadership and guidance provide Kirk with a more seasoned perspective, helping to temper his impulsiveness and prepare him for the challenges of command.